Hello and welcome to your full moon video for the full moon of the 31st of July 2015. The moon will be full at 11:42 a.m. London time. If you'd like to know what time that is in your particular time zone, there is a website called timeanddate.com, and you can look up the closest city to you and just take a look at the difference in time, and that'll help you to know from 11:42 what the time will be of the full moon for your particular time zone. This full moon will take place in the sign of Aquarius, and it actually marks the first full moon of two full moons in Aquarius over the course of the next month, which of course is what they call a blue moon. Doesn't happen quite often, but roughly every couple of years we'll have a blue moon in a particular sign. And this particular blue moon, of course, is in Aquarius. And the blue moon in Aquarius this time around, the first blue moon, that doesn't mean the moon will actually be blue, I should stress. It's just a particular way of relating to two full moons in a month. When they say once in a blue moon, that's actually what they mean. This particular full moon will be full in the nakshatra of Sravana. So we're going to take a look at the full moon in Aquarius and Sravana, and also the astrology that is around this particular full moon, because it really helps us to understand the tonality of the full moon. Every once in a while, we have one of those eureka moments where little bits and pieces of a puzzle begin to come together. We're able to connect various little bits of information. We're able to tune into our environment a little more deeply and pick up on something that we might have otherwise missed. And when we have that awakening and an awareness of where things might be heading from a specific moment, well, sometimes we're either excited and enthused about that particular concept, or we are a little bit, well, we approach it with trepidation, or we're not that happy about it. And I'm not by any means suggesting that there are difficult changes on the horizon for you. Difficult changes really are all how you approach them. Basically, when something is coming your way, sure, emotionally you may experience it, with some challenges, but for your own well-being and for your own sense of prosperity, it is actually beneficial for you, such as the change that is now approaching. But it's a type of change, as you're beginning to bring pieces of information together, that is letting you know that there's something that you're likely going to have to let go of in order to move forward. Because whatever it is that you're holding on to, well, it's holding you back. And it's keeping you from moving forward in a more positive manner. And you're likely holding on to it because it feels like, going against it or moving in a direction that would require you leaving that behind. You feel like you're not being true to yourself. But let's take a look at that. Being true to oneself. Well, you're here on planet Earth and you're constantly growing and constantly evolving. So you're always changing. So who you are one moment, well, there can be differences between what you believe in one moment and what you believe in the next moment. Things change. We're ever evolving and we're ever growing. So really, the change that you would need to make is right and appropriate for you. It's just, it goes against what you want to do if you had your I'd rathers at this particular moment. And so you're holding on and you're hanging on. Now, approaching this full moon cycle, about a week before, we had Venus shift to retrograde motion. When Venus goes retrograde, well, we're going back over old ground in association with Venus. And one of the things that's most deeply associated with Venus is our sense of values. Venus is also the planet of refinement. So we're going to use that particular energy and refine certain things in our life. Also, a day after that, Uranus shifted directions. Uranus being the planet of great changes. In terms of Vedic philosophy, we could look at Uranus as being connected with Brahma. Brahma is the creator. So after old things have been destroyed, Brahma brings in new forms. But sometimes there's a shakeup that has to happen with that particular process. And such is the case with things that are ordinarily connected with Uranus. So it's likely that you're refining and looking at how things have changed for you, how things have shifted over the previous month. And now as we approach a station of Saturn, as it gets ready to go back towards direct motion, something is crystallizing and coming together. And it marks a shift, and a marked shift. So whenever we have a change of so many planets changing direction, that marks a big shift in terms of what's going on for us. So let's take a look at some of the aspects of the week. And let's take a look starting with the full moon of the 31st. The full moon, of course, being in Sravana nakshatra and the sign of Aquarius. Sravana is associated with our ability to listen, although it goes a little bit deeper than that. It's listening can also mean our ability to see, our ability to feel, our ability to pick up on all those things in our environment, piece them together, develop an understanding about it. Basically, Sravana is about right understanding. And at the particular degree that the moon is at in Sravana nakshatra, it marks a looking at the path ahead and pulling together bits and pieces of information in relation to that. And on the very same day that that's happening, we've got Venus over here in the bottom right-hand corner. It's going to shift later on in the day into the sign of Leo. I would move that forward for you, but really we're just dealing with one day right now, so we don't need to shift that forward yet. So it's a look at self, a look at who you are, an understanding of who you are before you make a shift and before you make a forward motion, understanding what your values are. Venus is in Magha nakshatra as this is going on. And Magha nakshatra is related to the ancestors. One part of that is going to be about reviewing and going back over that which has come previously, the ancestors. Another angle on this particular energy is Magha can also be connected with the process of grieving before we move on from a particular phase. And we grieve everything in our life, not just loved ones. We grieve letting go of things, right? So part of that is bringing this into the balance for you to take a look at, to go over the old ground and look at what you might have to let go of, refining yourself before you are actually able to move forward. Why don't we shift forward on to the next day? And let's hope my little astrological clock will cooperate with me this time. Last time it didn't want to play ball with me, so let's hope that it does a little bit better this time. Excellent, here we are. On the 1st, we've got the sun, also over here in Leo, forming a tense angle known as a quincunx with Neptune over here in Pisces. Let's take a look at the sun in Ashleisha first of all. Ashleisha is very deep, penetrating energy. It's something that on one level grabs a hold of us and pulls us in. And as the sun is shining the light into these deep, dark recesses that are allowing you to see specific things in a manner that you've never seen them before, and as you're getting pulled into this process, you're seeing things in several different manners simultaneously. And because of the sun's tense angle with Neptune, it's in Purva Bhadrapada. Purva Bhadrapada relates to the power of elevation. So basically, you're getting pulled into something, but the picture might not be quite as crystal clear as you might think that it is. You might be analyzing little bits and pieces of information that you're putting together in a manner that is not quite so accurate and isn't giving you as clear of a picture as you might think that you are getting. Best thing to do with that particular process is to take a deeper look, but without emotions involved, without going, wow, what is this all about? This is enticing me and enthralling me. Instead, go, let's take a step back from that and look at it from a more detached perspective. As we approach the 2nd, let's take a shift forward with that. We're going to find our dear friend Saturn. And if Saturn isn't your dear friend, well, I highly suggest that you make him your dear friend, because Saturn's an important planet to make your dear friend. Saturn's going to shift back towards forward motion. And Saturn's in Anuradha nakshatra. And Anuradha nakshatra relates to the concept of having appropriate boundaries. That's appropriate boundaries with everything. Appropriate boundaries in our relationships, appropriate boundaries between ourselves and something that interests us so that we don't get pulled in too deeply, and so that we're able to see things from a detached perspective. Interestingly enough, Anuradha Nakshatra is associated with the deity Mitra, which is the god of friendships. So through that process and having proper established boundaries, we're able to be our own best friend rather than our own worst enemy. And that's something that can really help us now as Saturn is getting ready to shift back towards forward motion. As it's happening, well, you're likely getting still pulled into a process very deeply. But if you allow yourself to see with detachment, you'll develop an understanding that perhaps you're not looking at a situation as appropriately as you might be able to take a look at it. On the very same day, we've got Mercury over here in Leo and Magha Nakshatra, forming a harmonious alignment with Uranus in Revati. This is actually very powerful because Revati is ruled by Mercury, so it's going to make for a very powerful alignment between these two planets. And with Mercury in Magha Nakshatra, there's a balancing out of bits and pieces of information that you've been taking a look at in terms of what you now need to do and a direction that you now need to head in, and being able to kind of shield yourself from being pulled into a process too deeply, so that you're able to look at a situation with right judgment and with appropriate judgment. And as that is happening, there are some developments that are taking place behind the scenes, which is marked by Uranus in Revati. Revati marks the end of one cycle of being, and the next cycle has not yet begun, but there's a lot of developments taking place. And with our dear friend Uranus, also very similar to Brahma, there's a lot of stuff that's being created for you for the next phase of your life, and those developments are taking place, but you need to kind of establish a perspective that allows you to see things with clarity. And this Mercury-Uranus trine is something that's actually beneficial towards helping you to do that very thing. Now, on the following day, and also happening in the background as this is all taking place, but let's shift the clock forward so that we can take a look at this. We've also got a tense alignment. Jupiter this week is going to form a couple of tense alignments. First from Jupiter, oops, we lost our looking glass there. Let's get that back. First from Jupiter over here to Saturn. That's a tense alignment known as a square. And Jupiter and Pluto will also be forming a tense alignment on the very next day. Let's start with Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter also in Magha Nakshatra. Again, Magha Nakshatra, let's go a little more deeply into Magha Nakshatra. I think that'll help us because there's a lot happening in that particular nakshatra. Magha is related to the ancestral gods, the Pitris. Now, what they do is they provide guidance to individuals here on the planet, albeit in a very subtle manner, because they don't like to interfere unless they have to interfere. Why? Well, they want the individual to be strong within their own personality, so that the experiences of consciousness that they're going through will be able to be integrated on a deeper level. But when their assistance is really needed, well, they're happy to intervene. Now, with Magha Nakshatra has the power to leave the body, and it marks a transformation, very similar to death. So it's about leaving the body, making a shift to a different phase of your life, but having to let go of something that was behind you, as every transformational process or death process ultimately entails, right? So transformation is basically a form of death. If we look at death in the highest sense, and we needn't fear death, it's actually something that just marks a shift or a phase of existence. Now, don't read into this because I'm not saying anything about someone in your life, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not predicting something like that. I'm just talking about changes, shifts, letting go of something, letting go of anything from a way of looking at something or a a person who you had an intense connection with, but it's time for you to move on from that connection with them. It could be any number of things. But the concept here is of something that is beneficial for you, albeit you have to let go of something. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So if you're wanting to move forward now into a new phase of your life, it's going to require that you let go of something, and let go of something to which you have a lot of devotion. Because Anuradha Nakshatra is also associated with Radha, the perfect devotee of Krishna. So it marks a profound amount of devotion, and particularly the area of the sky that Saturn is in, within Anuradha Nakshatra. There's a profound sense of merging with a sense of devotion with something, and with Jupiter wanting to expand, it's requiring that you let go of that. Now we can take a look at the next day, the 4th, without moving our calendar forward. Jupiter is going to be forming a tense angle known as a sesquiquadrate with Pluto. Sesquiquadrates can be very powerful, I find, and a lot of astrologers don't talk about those, but basically they're a square and a half. So they can be rather tense energy. I think they don't get talked about a lot because they don't usually last that long. They're only applicable within about a degree of orb. But the thing is when you're looking at two planets like Jupiter and Pluto who don't move very quickly, that degree can take a long time to move. So it can feel very powerful. So a few days at the very least, this energy will be hanging around. So again, it's that concept of moving forward as per Jupiter. But Pluto over in Purva Ashadha. Now, Purva Ashadha relates to getting to the root, the essence of who we are, beneath all these surface exteriors that we put up, these masks that we don in order to deal with our day-to-day existence. It deals with our core values, our authentic self. But sometimes within that process, it requires a shedding of layers of the ego so that we can get a clearer picture, a clearer understanding of who we truly are and what we're truly about. And there is a certain degree of this with this particular process. There's something that you feel a sense of loyalty to, a sense of devotion to, because it's something that you feel is authentically a part of yourself, but you're changing and you're growing. And with first Jupiter, and then about a day or so later, Venus going over this particular area of the sky, it's very much about needing to let go of that, recognizing that you're changing and recognizing that you're growing. And in order to grow, there may be some things that you have to let go of. So on that same day that Jupiter sesquiquadrates Pluto, we've also got Jupiter and Venus conjuncting each other in Magha Nakshatra. Okay, this is actually a very powerful alignment. We can look at Venus as the planet of healing, but one of the ways that it heals is by refining things. And with Venus retrograde, we're going back over that old ground of something that, was very dear to us before we are looking at letting go of it so that we can move on. And there's a very healing balm that is present at the time that this is going on. But I should mention that at the same time, a change is necessary. And if you try to hold on, it's only going to make these alignments even more intense because they're designed to move you on from something. And as I was saying, on the 5th, we're going to move forward to the 5th now so we can take a clearer look at this. So there goes 1 day, there goes 2 days. And let's bring up our looking glass. Venus is going to do the same thing that Jupiter did a few days previously, right? Because Venus is going to square Saturn, and then it's going to sesquiquadrate Pluto over the course of the day of the 5th. So again, going back over that old ground, healing some of the grieving that we've done. But if you try to hang on, then you're going to be shaken out of it. So best to go along with the energy, tense though it may be, and allow yourself to move. Don't fear changes. Changes are actually something that's very positive for you. We encounter things sometimes in a tense manner, sometimes in a harmonious manner. And it's those things that we encounter tensely that mark the things that we most need to come to an understanding of within ourselves, because they're things that where we're kind of stuck. And in order to become unstuck, well, the universe has to come along with some of these tense alignments and yank us out of it, right? So if we recognize that something's feeling tense, we need to take a look at what we need to do to change that. And so whatever you're holding on to, let go. Let go. Whatever you believe was a part of you, recognize that's not a part of you. Who you are is much deeper than that. Recognize that that is just a part and a phase of your development. Who you are is something that's much more profound than that, right? So as we move forward to the 6th, we've got several different alignments going on that day, marking the last day of the days we're looking at with this particular full moon cycle. I will start with the sun. The sun in Leo, in Ashadha Nakshatra, is going to be forming a tense angle with Pluto. This is a quincunx. Quincunxes are irritating. They're still influential enough, but they're irritating. So as the sun is, and the sun will be on that particular date. Sorry, I think that this, I was just looking at something here. The sun on that particular date will be in Ashadha Nakshatra. And as the sun is going to be in Ashadha Nakshatra, and as you recognize a potential, something that's developing within you, as you recognize newfound strength that is coming to existence, well, part of that strength is coming at the, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, at the, as an expense, that's what I was trying to say, as an expense of getting to the root or to the heart of something inside of yourself. Peeling away at those layers of the ego of who you thought you are, of who you thought you were, who you thought you were in association with whatever it was you were believing in, who you thought you were with whoever you were holding on to or clinging on to, who you thought you were in general is now changing. And you're recognizing new potential, but part of that new potential is going to require shaking off an old mask. And that's what a lot of this Sun quincunx Pluto energy is about. Also on the same day, we've got Mars over here in Cancer and Pusha Nakshatra forming a harmonious alignment with Saturn. Let's remind ourselves about Saturn. So Saturn in Anuradha is going to mark, in this particular instance, energy where you're stuck, something that you feel very sentimental about, something that you're holding on to, something you have a lot of devotion to. Now, Mars over here in Cancer, our good friend Mars doesn't like being in Cancer. Cancer is a very sensitive sign, and Mars just needs to get things done. And when Mars needs to get things done, he doesn't want to go into his sensitivities. And if he has to go into his sensitivities, well, it's going to make him feel a little bit overwhelmed. But Mars is in Pusha Nakshatra. And part of Pusha Nakshatra is about recognizing one's destiny, recognizing what one needs to do, accepting limitations that are imposed upon one because one accepts that those limitations are necessary for the growth phase that is coming into being. So even though there is a sense of loyalty, a sense of feeling something deeply about something, there's a recognition and perhaps a sense of resignation that one needs to accept this in order to move forward. And Mars and Saturn are something that can help you with that process. Now, these two energies are like sand and glue and oil and water, right? But when they harmonize with each other, there's a tremendous amount of focus and discipline that can be applied. There's a very strong sense of will in connection with both of these planets. So this is actually something that's very helpful. On that very same day, we've got Mercury and Venus conjuncting each other. And then Mercury will also square Saturn. So Mercury being the planet of objectivity, intellect, when it's used properly, and there can be difficulty with this particular cycle because this is a square between Mercury and Saturn, but when it's used properly, we're able to see things with detachment and make right judgment. When Mercury is, in a positive position, he's able to make right judgment. And with this particular energy, you are able to make right judgment. You are able to recognize, I have to let go of this. I just kind of have to put all of this to one side and now move on. with things, right? That's what Mercury conjuncting Venus in Maga is all about. But doing so, yes, again, it means letting go of something to which you feel a tremendous amount of devotion, right? A tremendous amount of alignment to or loyalty to. Now, I recognize as I'm saying all this that it may make you feel a little bit tense, and I can't say enough that it's important to go along with changes as they are happening, rather than hide from those changes or feel like we want to pull the blanket up over our head. There's no security in anything other than accepting the security within yourself, regardless of the changes that you're going through. Recognizing your connection with yourself and with your soul, which is much deeper than your emotions, much deeper than your thought patterns, much deeper than what those thought patterns attach to. And what you are dealing with in this particular instance is something that thought forms are attaching to. So those thought forms just as easily, I shouldn't say easily, perhaps it's difficult, those thought forms also need to detach. And if you put your consciousness and strength of will to it, and hey, you've got Mars trining Saturn to help with that, then it's something that you can apply yourself to and create positive change in your life. Change that will only serve you for the better in the future. And we both know that that's a very positive thing. Now, if you need a little bit of help navigating the week's alignments, I should mention that I do offer a vast range of astrological services. And if you will notice a little eye in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and if you don't see some words appearing there, you can click on that eye and it will kind of open up a box for you so that you can see a link to my astrological services page. And that will take you there, obviously, where there are on offer person-to-person consultations, personalized video reports, and written reports, all designed to help you with your particular situation. I should also mention that this Sunday, the 2nd of August, if you've been enjoying the work that we do in these videos, well, you have a chance to learn these techniques. I will be starting a foundation level video webinar where you will be connected with me using this very tool that I'm using to record this video. And I can teach you the basics of Vedic astrology from the comfort of your own home. I'm offering this course because I am so thrilled about doing it. I'm offering this course on a pay whatever you can afford basis, because to me it's more important that I have sincere students than, you know, making tons of money from it, right? So I'd much rather just have sincere students. So if the regular fee for the course is too high for you, please know that you can join the course on a pay whatever you can afford basis. But I do need to mention you have to pre-register for this course, and it's pay what you can afford per semester. And you need to pre-register. That way I know how many people are on the course, because I can only accept a certain amount of people on the course, right? So that's going to do it for your full moon video for the full moon of the 31st of July, 2015. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.